Welcome and or welcome back to my channel. I'm Hannah Blackwell and today I'm going to be sharing with you my mid-year book freakout tag. I'm very excited for this year. I'm not sure that I did this last year. I think I kind of did like a mid-year kind of update, but I really like this tag, and specifically I like the couple of modifications that Books and Lala added to it. I'll have her channel link down below, but she just added a couple of questions that I think are really great questions that really round out the whole tag, so I'm going to be adding those in as well. But before I get into this video, go ahead and click the like button and comment down below and let me know what is the most disappointing book that you have read this year and the most surprising book. Okay, those are the two that I really want to hear from you. And also don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. All my social media is linked down below in the description, including my Goodreads, my Instagram, and the link to the Hideaway Discord, which I share with my good friend Maggie. So let's just go ahead and get into these questions because there's a lot of them. Instead of trying to search for all the books, I think I'm just going to do pop-ups for this one, and I will do them right here or here. I don't know. We'll see what happens, right guys? Okay, so the first question, I think this one was actually added by Kayla, which is, how is your reading year going? And I think this is, you know, a really great question to like add to this list. My year has been a roller coaster in terms of my reading. It started out kind of like slumpy, but then I was reading different books that I don't always read a lot of. I was reading a lot of like post-apocalyptic stuff, and I wasn't reading as much as usual, but that was fine. I was enjoying the books that I was reading. And then I was doing some horror and sci-fi, and I kind of hit a little bit of a slump. And I always hit a slump that time of year. Like March is just not a reading month for me because it is just really busy with all of the gardening prep that I have to do. That is when things are like my gardening starts, and transplanting the spring stuff out and then getting the summer stuff ready to get out is really in full swing, and I'm just super preoccupied by keeping all of that straight in my head. The last 2 years I basically didn't read in March, and I think I just need to be ready for that going forward and just be like okay with that, and not too it's not necessarily like a slump, but it's more just like I feel like there are more important things that I need to be putting my focus onto during that time of the year. It's kind of been a weird year, and then I did a lot of romance reading after that to get myself out of a slump. I always find that super fast-paced, fun, like zero thought romance books really help me get out of slumps. So and they did. I read a whole lot of romance in like getting into April and then in May as well. And then in June, I was reading romance, but then I've also been getting back into epic fantasy again and stuff. So it's just not been steady month to month in terms of my genres I've been reading up and all over the place. But it's like, I'm like picking a genre per month, and that's the only thing I want to read, instead of it being kind of more well-rounded per month, if that makes sense. But it's okay, you know, I am still reading, I'm still enjoying reading, and I think that's what matters. I have had a good amount of 5 stars, and I've had a lot of DNFs, and you know, I think in that way it's a pretty average year, but I would like things to be, I guess, a little bit more steady in terms of my reading, because I know for you guys it can be difficult when I'm going from like genre to genre, and like 1 month I'm only reading romance, 1 month I'm only reading like sci-fi, that kind of thing. So you know, it kind of makes it hard for content to keep consistency for what I'm offering you guys, but at the same time, this is my channel and I just do it as a hobby anyway, so it's not like I'm trying to like really have this extreme growth or anything like that. I'm going on a tangent. Anyway, I think it's been a pretty good year. It's just been kind of like roller coaster-y. And so the best book I've read so far in 2023, I feel like this is such a perfect representation of the fact that my reading has been very roller coaster-y, and I've read some stuff that I wouldn't usually read. My favorite book of the year, I've got a few, but we'll get to my #1 favorite book of the year. Let's talk about a couple of others first. So my favorite romance I've read this year is probably, there's a few, but Taken to Viraxia by Elizabeth Stevens. This is a alien romance, and I thought it was written so well. I thought the world building was wonderful, and I thought the tension between the 2 main characters was perfect. This is an enemies to lovers alien romance. Basically, these humans are on this moon and they're being very mistreated, and the head of like the galactic like empire, or I don't know what it's called, but he shows up not knowing what's happening on this moon and finds his Zaviri mate on this moon, and he has to wait a year to be able to pick her up because she's not like of age yet. So he does see that basically a lot of people here are being mistreated. He's still unsure about what's going on. And when he finally ends up being able to pick her up, she thinks she has to make trades and things like that for him. She doesn't understand her rights. She doesn't understand what he wants from her. So there's a lot of miscommunication in that way, but it's done very well. So highly, highly recommend if you're looking for an alien romance book to try out. I think it's very unique. I think it's better than so many alien romances that I've read. It's just so well written. So highly, highly recommend Taken to Veraxia. There's a couple of historical romances that really made an impact on me so far this year, two of which are Lorraine Heath books, but one of those is Beauty Tempts the Beast, and this one at first I didn't think I liked it as much as the other book I read by her, but it's stuck with me. So these characters have stuck with me, and it's a beautiful, beautiful story. Our heroine was born nobility, but they've fallen from grace. Our hero is technically like a PIMP, but he's not, like, he doesn't want to be, he's just protecting these women basically. And this is set, I think, in Victorian times in England, and the two basically hatch a deal to help each other out, and their romance blooms from there. And it's just really, really, really good. I loved it. A lot of Lorraine Heath books just have this intense pining. She does class difference really well, and she does damaged heroes and damaged heroines very well, and them having to like go through that and heal from that together. So anyway, that one was really good too. One of my most memorable experiences reading this year was actually Bunny by Mona Awad. I read this and it made a huge impact on me, and it made me cry. There's other books on here that you'll see made me cry too, but this one just, it made an impact on me. It was weird. At sometimes I was like laughing out loud at how weird it was, but at other times I was so like torn and hurt and touched by what was going on. It's a really weird book, so it's like in the weird lit genre. She's like in this program, and there's this group called the Bunnies, and they all call each other Bunny, and it's very like weird and culty almost, and she hates them, and she ends up being invited to what they call the smut salon, and things get really weird from there. I don't want to say too much else. It's a weird book. It made a huge impact on me. Possibly my favorite book I read this year was Kristen Hanna's Four Winds. The Four Winds is a historical novel. I don't read historical fiction, but apparently I do, because this was a 6-star read for me. It's the only 6-star I've given out so far this year, and it was phenomenal. It was so good. Like, this is set during the Great Depression. It's set in the Dust Bowl. So I think the main characters are actually in the Texas Panhandle. It starts with the main character like before the Great Depression really hits, and then she ends up getting married and marrying into this family, and things go from there when the Great Depression hits, and you really feel so much for her family. You feel so much for her. So much happens, but it's also just mostly very a character-driven story, and I cried so much reading this book. I just cried and cried and cried and cried. It was phenomenal. One of the most well-written books I've ever read. I really want to read The Nightingale by her. Well, we're gonna try to read that one coming up soon, but yeah, I guess I like historical fiction. Okay, so the next question is, what is the best sequel that I read so far in the first half of the year? And this is another book that could have been a contender, I guess, for another favorite book of the first half of this year, and that was Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Shauna McGuire. This is the second book in the Wayward Children's series, and I've read the first 3 so far, and it's my favorite in the whole series so far. And it has very gothic feelings, very gothic vibes. It's like vampires and they're on the moors, and it just feels like an old gothic novel. So the Wayward Children series is about these children that have gone through doors to other worlds, and then they've returned back to our world, and they don't know how to reacclimate to society, and so they're put in this home for wayward children. And so every other book actually takes place on a world, and every other one I think is like at the school. So anyway, this one was set in this world that's like gray, and it's all like the moors, and there's vampires, and it's very gothic feeling and dark. And I loved the characters, I loved the story, I really connected with the sisters in here, and it was just really good. It was just really, really good. I also really enjoyed To Flame a Wildflower. That's the third book in Sarah A. Parker's Bleed a Crystal Bloom series, and I'm very much looking forward to continuing on. And I also read all books 2, 3, and 4 in the Black Winter series by Darcy Coates, which is her post-apocalyptic, wintry, romantic suspense thriller, like post-apocalyptic kind of series, and those were wonderful. So I only had one reread, so for my favorite reread it would definitely be The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. This is still a 5-star read. I really enjoyed this. I'm doing a reread of the Stormlight Archive with a bunch of people on the Hideaway Discord, and so I'm about to be starting the second book in the series. Really enjoyed that reread. The Stormlight Archive is an epic political fantasy series, that the 5th book and the final book in this 5-book installment of a 10-book series. Basically the 10-book series is going to be 2 series within it, if that makes sense. So this is the first series, the first 5-book series, and it's coming to an end coming this December. The 5th book is coming out, and so I'm trying to do my reread so I can catch up. Each book is over 1,000 pages. They're very long and they take a while to get through, but the reread was really enjoyable. I loved being able to see things that I kind of missed the first time, or see little like clues and stuff. It was really fun. Genre you've been reading and loving the most. So I would have to say I have read more sci-fi this year than in previous years, and I'm really enjoying that. I actually just read Empire of Silence and enjoyed that one, and I've read some other sci-fis too, so I'm hoping to keep reading sci-fi. But really my reading I feel like has been all over the place. I've read thrillers, horrors, sci-fis, fantasies, and romances, just like usual. Obviously my most read genre is probably romance, right behind that being fantasy. And I think that's kind of stayed the same, even though there's been definitely periods where I did not read much romance at all. Like there was a couple months that I didn't read any romance, and that's fine. But yeah, I would say I've read more sci-fi than the previous year, I believe, so far. And I'm enjoying that. New release you haven't read yet, but you want to. Okay. There's a few. I still want to read The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo, even though it has been getting some mixed reviews. I also want to read The Silver Blood Promise by James Logan. I do want to read The Honey Witch. I do have that on hold at the library as well. So those are definitely some books that have already come out that I really want to get to. And the books that I'm really anticipating, there's a few. Obviously, I already talked about the 5th book in the Stormlight Archive. I think it's called Wind and Truth. I also have the audio arc for The Spellship by Sarah Beth Durst that I really want to read. This one looks really, really cute and cozy, and I think it's supposed to be like a cozy fantasy. And then A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping, which is another book by Sangu Mandana that I'm really excited about. I think it might be set in the same world as The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, which was like my second favorite book I read last year. So very much looking forward to all of those, but there's also other books that I want to get to. I'm wanting to read more new releases. I'm not great at that, and I'm really wanting to get better at reading new releases. So we'll see if that can kind of pick up the second half of this year. So my biggest disappointment, I'm thinking right now, just Odd Air, because I was just expecting so much from it. I was really excited. I think I was expecting too much Dave Abad, and like Shannon Chakraborty is an amazing writer, and unfortunately this book just didn't meet my expectations in terms of the quality of the writing. I also should have been more wary of the plot synopsis, because the synopsis set me up for one of the biggest reasons I didn't enjoy this book, which was yes, it's set in Egyptian world, but it's a carbon copy of every single other fantasy romance and YA romance out there. Like this 50% at least, honestly, of YA fantasy and then fantasy, like adult fantasy romances and like new adult fantasy romances have this plot synopsis. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. And I just couldn't get through it because, and I should have been ready for that, because it's in the synopsis. Like I saw that, like this is a long lost heir to a kingdom, and then she has to compete in trials, and It's an enemies to lovers. The problem was, though, the execution was just not great, to be honest. The writing wasn't great. The execution wasn't great. It didn't make me feel enough for the characters. It didn't even set up like why are we even doing these trials? The hero was awful to the heroine. Like he stabbed her many times already. So I think I DNF'd about halfway through because the hero at that point was unredeemable to me, and there was nothing for me to get behind in the story. So I DNF'd it. That was a big disappointment for me, unfortunately, because I really had high hopes. I thought I was going to love that book. Biggest surprise, I think, would have to be The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna. I don't read historical fiction, and I loved that book. So that was a huge surprise for me. Favorite new author. I don't know that I have a favorite new author yet this time of year. Like, I've had authors that I've read that I'm like, ooh, I need to read more of their work. But like, for it to be a favorite author, I have to have read, I would think at least two or three books in different series by them. Maybe Lorraine Heath. I read 2 books by her this month, and I had never read her before. Not this month. I read 2 books by her in May, was it? And I had never read from her before, and they were both 5-star reads, and they were books from different series. So Lorraine Heath possibly could be a new favorite author of mine. I guess you could say maybe Sarah A. Parker, because I did read When the Moon Hatched, and I did read the 3rd book in her To Bleed a Crystal Bloom series. So now at this point, I've read 4 books by her, and they've all been 5+ stars. And one of those books is now from a different series. So maybe you could say, yeah, Sarah Parker is now a new favorite author of mine. Yeah, I would feel comfortable saying that. Even though it's only 2 different series, that's like 4 books. So I would say Sarah Parker. Okay, the next question is newest favorite character. That's a hard question. Not really. That's kind of sad, huh? Like, I can't think of anyone that's like a new favorite character. I will say that Hadrian from Empire of Silence is definitely not a new favorite character of mine. Even though I really enjoyed that book, like, Hadrian is like an unlikable character. I don't know. I guess I don't really have any new favorite characters. That's a hard question for mine. I'm moving on. A book that made you cry. That would definitely have to be The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna. That book made me cry like about 1 million times. Like, I cried so much reading that book. Like ugly crying, and a lot. So definitely The Four Winds. And then a book that made me happy. I think that reading a lot of the Ice Planet Barbarians series this first half of this year has made me really happy. I've really enjoyed, I think I've read at least 4 or 5 books in that series so far the first half of this year. I really enjoy reading the Ice Planet Barbarians, so I would say reading that series has made me really happy. Another one that made me really happy was When the Scot Ties a Knot by Tessa Dare. That one just had me laughing and giggling the whole time. It was really cute, really sweet historical romance set in the Scottish Highlands, and our heroine's a blue stocking, and our hero is a soldier coming home from war, and it's just really good. It's really good. The most beautiful book you've bought or received this year. So I did do a book haul earlier in spring, and I think most of those books I actually did buy this year, because I remember saying like I didn't think I bought any books this year, but it's just been a few months since I've bought any books. But I did do a book haul earlier this spring. So, but I can't remember what was on there. I did recently get a book from Crystal from Books Forever After, and it's a Lorraine Heath book, gorgeous cover, and this is Beyond Scoundrel and Desire, and I think this is the first book in that series that's Beauty Tames the Beast, and that was like the 6th book in the series. I think this is the first book in that series. I'm very excited to read this one, and it's beautiful. I think Lorraine Heath just always has really nice covers, and I really appreciate Crystal for sending that to me. What books do you need to read by the end of the year? 1 million. I have so many books that I really want to read. I guess I definitely have to read all of the Stormlight Archive, so I have to catch up on the Stormlight Archive so that I can hopefully read When in Truth as soon as it comes out. That is definitely a hope of mine. I'd also really like to finish the Dandelion Dynasty. We'll see if I can do that. I've got 2 more books to read in that series, but book 3 is like 1,000 pages, so it's long. And then obviously all of the ones I talked about previously for the books that have come out that I haven't gotten to yet, and the books that are coming out in the second half of the year that I really want to get to. There's a million books. I guess all the books on my shelves. I have a never-ending TBR, so. And then my favorite video or post that I've done so far this year. Let's see. Let's see. What have I posted? Oh god. I had fun doing the 5-star audit, to be honest. I had a lot of fun like creating that graphic and going through and trying to figure out what really like makes me tick in terms of reading, like what I really enjoy reading. And that gave me a lot of insight into me as a reader and gave me more ideas of things I should try and books I should be concentrating on trying to read. But yeah, I liked doing the 5-star audit. That was a lot of fun. And then kind of picking the predictions based on that. So my 5-star predictions, I'll have both of those linked down below in the description if you're interested. Okay, and the last question is some booktubers that I want to shout out and rec to you guys. I've got a bunch. I follow so many booktubers, guys. There's a million that I'm going to have to leave out because I'm just having to kind of pick and choose a few that I can think of right now. And April from Happily Ever April, Tiff from Tiff Talks Books, B from Mama Needs to Read Romance, Jess from Honest Fiction. Those are all the girlies that are co-hosting my swashbuckling readathon, and so obviously I have to shout them all out. They all talk about romance books. I also have some booktubers that I love to go to for fantasy recommendations. One is Isa from Fun Fantasy Books, Joanna from Joanna Reads, Abby from Abby Salter, and Tori Morrow as well. I found her channel recently, A Book Circus. She has a really awesome wide array of recommendations. She reads a lot of different genres just like me. And then Katie Marie does too. And then Kristen from Kristen Craves Books. These are all people that have kind of like a wider array of books that they read too that they recommend. And so yeah, there's a million people. Like I have so many friends that I would like, yeah. It's hard because I'm like trying to make sure I like remember people, but I'm not gonna be able to get everyone, but that's fine. Those are all some awesome booktubers for you to check out. Anyone that I've worked with or done like videos with and collabs with, check everyone out. You can go through my channel and see the different people that I've had on my channel and etc. I hope you guys liked this video. I hope you enjoyed seeing kind of like my recap of how this year has gone so far. It's been a good one, but definitely kind of like there's been hits and misses. It's been a bit of a roller coaster, and I'm hoping to level things out a little bit in the coming months. I'm looking forward to the rest of the year. I have a lot of books I want to read. I'm excited for fall, but I'm also really enjoying the summer. I will be back soon with another video. Until next time, fellow readers, keep reading and living your best life.
Never said you felt that way. And guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away.